All right, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wowza webinar. My name is Justin Miller, and you're here for the Wowza Q4 product update webinar, the winter webinar for 2020. And I have too many things running at the same time as I try to go to the next slide here. All right. So for the agenda for today, we're going to have just a brief overview of everything right now, and then we're going to jump straight into Wowza Streaming Engine updates. After that is over, we will be answering questions. You can type your questions into the Q&A window. If you want, go ahead and just type into the Q&A window where you're from. That way we know it's working. After that, we'll get into Wowza Streaming Cloud updates. And again, we will end that with a Q&A section. So please be sure you ask your questions during the time that we discuss that particular product. Once that's over, we'll go into the Clearcaster update and repeat that process along with sunsetting update. And then we'll leave it to open Q&A if there is time. And I will say hello to Alex from Toronto. Alex, hey, hope it's going well over there. Those who will be presenting, if I can go to the next slide, are Jamie Sherry, our Senior Product Manager for Wowza Streaming Engine, Robert Vacante for our Senior Product Manager for Wowza Streaming Cloud, and Emma, you gave me this information, and then as I sit here, of course, it wipes out. But Emma Guth, product manager for Clearcaster, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say it. And I, of course, am Justin Miller. I am the moderator here. So, Emma, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Robert. You as well. I think we're going to be starting with Jamie. So, Jamie, if you want, take it away.
Lucky me. Thanks, Justin. Hello, everyone. I am here to talk about primarily a release that we're actually doing tomorrow. Version 4.8.8 is going out with a load of new features and functionality. Some of you may have been exposed to this in previous versions, certainly all the way back to 4.8.5. And for those of you participating in our beta program, you will see some of these things in those betas as well, the last two that we did. So, and if anyone's interested in beta, by the way, let me know or let us know. So I'm just going to go through the highlights of this. There's about 6 major areas thematically that we have updates for in 4.8.8, again, going out tomorrow. The first is security. We have been working very hard with customers on some security fixes to Wowza Streaming Engine. These are in both underlying libraries, as it says here, and what I call other assets, which is files and folder structure that are part of Wowza Streaming Engine's configuration and structure. So these are meant to help with bolstering and ensuring security is at the highest levels possible with running both Wowza Streaming Engine, the server as a whole, as well as the user interface we call Wowza Streaming Engine Manager. Again, as a company, we take security very seriously as a whole, and so we've been, like I said, working very hard on these with customer input and feedback. And if you are specifically waiting for responses on those, we'll be notifying you as well on those tomorrow. The next is low latency HLS. As many of you may know, we have implemented low latency HLS in Wowza Streaming Engine. Last quarter we did this and put a release out. We've been fine-tuning that and optimizing that, and this release will have what the beta release has had as well, which is some updates on default values and configurations, and again, some optimizations that keep us aligned with the standards and the spec as it evolves. If many of you may know, it took another evolution, a small one in November, early November, and we're making sure that we stay in compliance with that spec. Load performance. So a lot of folks using SSL and HPS are used more and more in the industry, browsers requiring that, obviously, and the like. So and certainly ingest and pieces like that are requiring it more and more, and people are desiring it more and more. So as most of you know, it takes a hit on performance, but we've been working very hard to improve that performance in Wowza Streaming Engine. So you can now see potentially up to double performance for high load delivery. So as it says here. On logging, we have finally taken a step forward and taken our Log4j use to Log4j2. This is going to cause, I would encourage you to look at the release notes to look at some of the implementation expectations and changes on that as far as logging, and I will talk about that in another slide here, some of those impacts. But really, we decided to do this finally to bring those performance and functionality pieces forward that Log4j2 provides. You can see some of the examples here: per class logging, throttling, output management, and more. So as it says here, we're giving people a lot more capability with logging than with Log4j. Is about time. NVENC 9. So we support GPU in Wowza Streaming Engine, as many of you may know and use. And this is an update to say that we support the NVIDIA Turing or newer architecture, as it says here. There are some driver differences here to be aware of. Our release notes will have that, but essentially you can do the latest and greatest with GPU with NVENC 9 here in this version of the software. In addition, Media Cache, we've done a lot of enhancements around the use of Media Cache with Amazon's S3 storage capability. So this is helping with the use of on-demand content and Wowza Streaming Engine for that delivery. All right, so those are the categories for new features. There are lots of other things in there, by the way. I would encourage you to look at the release notes to find your favorite thing that you know or think has been released. We certainly can help with clarity there. The release notes on our doc site will have the complete set of functionality changes that are in there. Those are, again, the high level and most important things, but important to you may be different, so please take a look. What we also have in the release notes is considerations for installing and updating regarding 4.8.8. So regarding 4.8.8 and updating from previous versions into 4.8.8, as you can see here, 4.8.5 requires a version of the JDK that's 9.0.4 higher end. We've packaged that up and provided that, but you have to download and install that. If you go into your Wowza account, you will be able to see this and grab this. And then you just have to tell Wowza Streaming Engine to use that version of Java. We have documentation on this, again, on the website, on our doc site. If you have questions about how to do this, the release notes will link to those documents. When you're installing 4.8.8 from scratch, there is one little gotcha where with the use of SRT, both inbound, outbound, in certain scenarios, you might need to get the latest version of Microsoft's Visual C++ distributable for Visual Studio. That's hard to say. So just keep in mind that too if you run into trouble with SRT on 4.8.8. And breaking changes. So don't love to talk about breaking changes. Try not to do that ever. But with some of these security fixes and additions, we naturally have things that are going to change. And so these are great to be aware of so that when you install this or update to this, you don't get stuck. The first is through all the library updates we did. One of them is the REST of the framework library for the REST API. And basically some of the XML responses have changed and are not backwards compatible. I didn't list them here because this is already a very wordy slide. They are listed in the release notes though, and you can find those specifics. There's only 2. So if these are something you use specifically, you'll just want to take note of that. On logging configuration updates, again, referencing Log4j2. We have the configuration location has changed. It's got a 2 in there. So that's just something we couldn't get around. Existing log configurations will need to be moved to that file. In addition, when you're updating to 4.8.8, the properties from the existing log configurations and the old Log4j properties file will be moved to a backup file. So just note that you won't be losing those. They will be in a backup file. You can go grab if you need to. The other notion with, or thing to note with Log4j2 is that header information is now only being added at the beginning of a new access log file. So we're not adding it on engine start and stop, not stop, but starts each time. So it's just on the creation of a new file. And the last one is server version. HTTP provider, there's default behavior change here. Again, it's listed here. It's basically we've implemented the addition of the server version on the back of the URL. So you can see that here.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. I'm going to go to some questions. And while I do that, I'm also going to launch a poll here. This poll definitely relates to Wowza Streaming Engine. I know that not everybody here who is in this webinar is necessarily using Wowza Streaming Engine, but definitely for those of you who are, if you could answer it, we would definitely appreciate it. So Jamie, Janie is asking, will this version still work on Windows 2003?
I don't have a reason to say no. So if you are using 2003, I think it depends with what version you're using of Engine with 2003 today. So I would say my answer is yes. No reason to think otherwise. I certainly can confirm that. Offline.
Now, and we will repeat at the end for other questions that people may have. As well, just to review the poll questions here, we're asking, do you use modules with Wowza Streaming Engine? I can see it looks like it has an N since Engine doesn't appear there. So I just want to make sure people are aware we are asking Engine questions. The second question being, with Wowza Engine instances, do you have custom code that orchestrates the configuration, or do you configure and run it manually? And 3, if all the capabilities you need from Wowza Streaming Engine were available in a cloud-based solution, would you consider migrating? So please do take the time to answer those questions, those people who are using Wowza Streaming Engine, or, well, for that matter, are interested in using Wowza Streaming Engine. But also, Lusa is asking, is it supporting CMAF CTE push to external stream targets like Akamai?
Hey, Luca. So yeah, no, this is a roadmap item. We don't have support just yet for this. So on timing, I can get back to you on that too. I don't. We're going into and have been working on our 2021 planning and certainly Q1 planning, and I would be able to confirm that probably closer to the end of the year for you. But I can reach out to you and find out.
All right. And Sergey is asking, are transcoder benchmarks going to be updated anytime soon? Is there a regular request for HW sizing?
So it's a great question. Admittedly, for those of you, I am coming back to this product and playing a lot of catch up. And one of the things that we used to do when I was on the product before was transcoder benchmarks. And so it's something that I need to figure out and find an answer to. I would like to do these more regularly than we've done in the past. So again, it's something that I'll have to explore and come back with an answer on.
All right. And by the way, Lusa says thank you. And she says she hopes you're good. And also low latency HLS would be needed. So I'm not sure if they're aware that we do currently support low latency HLS.
I can reach out. We've talked before. And I can kind of give an update on LHLS further as far as where we're going.
I'm going to end the poll for anybody curious. Using modules, that's about a break even there. Most people configure and run manually Wowza Streaming Engine instances. And it appears that many people would definitely consider using Wowza Streaming Engine if it were available in a cloud-based solution. All right, thank you for those who answered. And now we are going to move on with Robert Vacante talking about Wowza Streaming Cloud.
Yes, thank you, Justin. I'm going to make this a quick update. There are 2 things to talk about, WebRTC and our live to VOD that are now available. Both of these, in our last update, we had either some hints as these being things that were going to be available soon, or some of the capability was already available. So as you may recall, if you were in our last webinar, WebRTC was something where we had the ability to do broadcasting and publishing from a browser already at that time. But Wowza Streaming Cloud did not yet support the ability to do end-to-end WebRTC, providing you with some of the with frankly the best low latency solution that there is in the industry, and that's the best. It is the lowest latency protocol that's out there right now. It does have some limitations. I'll just note those on the next slide, but wanted you to make aware that now we can do that, and I will be giving you a demo of this. In addition, live to VOD was something that we were expecting to be coming soon, and that is now available. Effectively, it's a clever technology, makes it possible for you to be able to restream your live events, still using HLS and all the adaptive bitrate that has been applied to those. So I'll talk about that a little bit. And then coming soon, I don't have another slide on this except for that we have DRM. That is something that we're actively working on right now. So for those of you who need to be able to protect your stream with any of the 3 common encryption schemes or 3 common digital rights schemes, those will be available in cloud in the not too distant future. And then we're also constantly working to expose more of those features of Engine in cloud. So kind of as alluded that the survey question that Justin presented about would you be able to migrate from Engine to cloud was alluding to this. We're trying to broaden the capabilities so that you can focus on doing more of your content creation and content distribution and whatever the app is that you built around streaming, and then you don't have to worry as much about just hosting it, making sure the engine is running. So it gives us the ability to make sure that it's running, it's up, it's patched, it's secure, and then you just get to take advantage of those features. So we're broadening that and creating an offer for that we're trying to get people's feedback on. So if you do have particular feedback on that, please feel free to reach out to myself or Jamie. We're very interested in hearing about how you would use a solution engine-like, but that in a cloud environment. So go ahead and advance the slide. WebRTC playback, this is what I will be demoing. It's an all browser now capture and playback option. And for the purpose of this demo, you'll be able to see it makes it really easy. We've provided pages so that all you need to be able to do is provide the parameterized page to either somebody that you want to be able to publish into a stream or someone that you want to be able to view a stream via WebRTC. Note that you aren't strictly limited to publishing only to WebRTC. It doesn't have to be WebRTC to WebRTC. You can go WebRTC to HLS. That's certainly an option that if you're doing mass distribution maybe is more appropriate. But if you do want to do WebRTC to WebRTC for that low latency, I can show you how that'll work. Great for remote broadcast portals. A lot of the customers that we have worked with already that are utilizing this, it makes it easy for them to go to broadcasters that or people who are publishing content that aren't very familiar with what it would take to set up an encoder. Even setting up some of something like OBS is oftentimes a little bit troublesome for them. So what we've made it is that you can build a really simple portal. You can use our portal, hand that off to somebody that you want to be able to broadcast, and they can be up and running in no time. Best in class latency. When I've run tests on this, it's tended to be about 3/4 of a second for the latency, and that's what you'll see. There's one little trick you need to take advantage of that I'll be showing you in the demo, and then it's really ideal for up to 300 viewers. One thing that's important is that these streams are coming directly off the transcoder running in cloud. It's not something that's using a CDN. So there is a limit because you can only hit that transcoder so hard before its knees start to buckle. So typically, depending on the resolution and a couple other parameters, 300 is really about the practical limit that you'd want to use. There are ways of chaining multiple transcoders together. Obviously, the output of one transcoder could go into another. So that number in that range can grow with the additional expense of running additional transcoders. But fundamentally, it's not at the scale of CDNs where you can easily distribute to hundreds of thousands or even millions of viewers. It does incur egress bandwidth, and this is an important consideration from a cost perspective. Since it's not going to the CDN, all of the bandwidth that's consumed coming directly off the transcoder is egress. So inspect your plan to understand what the costs associated with that are. CDN is designed for mass distribution, egress less so, and so there is going to be a cost associated with running that. I will also note that this is available, all the configuration parameters for this, and for that matter for the ability to do live to VOD, available in 1.6. That was just released in the last week. And so if you want to be able to control WebRTC streams via API 1.6 is required in order to be able to do that. I have there as a little side note, a notification for those of you that are API users went out on Monday, a couple days ago of this week. And an important thing to flag for those of you who might be using either 1.3 or 1.4 is that those APIs are being sunset on March 1st. They will go into sort of a deprecation phase first, where we're not actively developing on them as of January 1st, but March 1st, those will actually go away. So those endpoints will no longer function. It should not be a major migration effort by any means. They tend to be backwards compatible with very few changes that wouldn't be. It's mostly about adding new functionality. But do note, if the endpoints, the REST endpoints you're hitting out right now are on 1.3 or 1.4, they will cease to function on March 1st. So just a warning for that. Live to VOD now available. Effectively, as I mentioned earlier, instant HLS video replay is what this provides. All you have to do is add a single check in the whole workflow in order to be able to store these assets. Effectively, what we're doing is, rather than having the streams be transient before they go out to the CDN, we're holding on to them. So the entire adaptive bitrate ladder is preserved. If somebody wants to be able to watch it, you hand them either the same or a different URL. Typically, if you've got a single event, the URL will stay the same. If you're reusing a stream over and over again, you'll need a new URL for it. We deal with that and we generate it for you, but just be aware, then you've got the static URL that you can distribute to somebody and they can watch it whenever it's convenient for them. It's Fastly only because of the mechanisms that we do for distribution, and it does consume some storage. Storage is one of the, storage has gotten really cheap, but there is some storage, and then it's going to reutilize the CDN as well, so there'll be costs associated with that. So with that, go ahead and advance the slide. I'm going to give you a quick demo, so if you can stop sharing, Justin, and I will start sharing. And that is this screen, which all cloud users should be familiar with. This is our internal account that we use. So it's got a lot of streams that people are using for testing. I'm going to show you specifically about adding a live stream and using it for WebRTC. So I'm going to go in here and hit add a live stream. And if I do this as quick as I can do it in under a minute, but I need to be able to explain it. So live stream, we're going to call this the December webinar. And we can certainly do it from US West California. We're in Colorado, that's reasonably close. Really the only choice that we need to make here is to say that our encoder, or our camera is in this case coming from WebRTC. Don't need to be concerned about the billing mode. Adaptive bitrate, not really as applicable for web if you're just doing WebRTC to WebRTC, but we'll leave that as adaptive bitrate. Not an HLS reduced latency. This is the one thing I wanted to point out. This isn't part of the WebRTC demo formal, but this is the only check that you would add. Yes, create a VOD stream for this live stream. That's telling us to preserve that content so that it can be used later. Now, obviously, if I do WebRTC to WebRTC, we're never involving the CDN. We're not actually generating HLS. At this point, this option, while set, wouldn't have any effect. You'd need to be streaming to HLS as well, which is certainly feasible, but not something I'd be showing in a demo. That said, just be aware, this check mark is all that you need to do in order to create that live stream. There's obviously also just one parameter that you need to be able to add when you're creating a stream via the API. Go on to next. There are no changes for me to make here in terms of what we're going to be presenting to customers, whether we want a logo and options like that. Again, the hosted page, in this case, this is about the HLS page, so it's kind of unimportant, and I don't need to change any options here. And then finally, ask to review the settings. So now I'm going to hit finish here. And just for expediency, the first thing I'm going to do is start this stream so I can show you this actually working. So I'm going to start that stream. But note here, what we've effectively done, I'm going to hide this window, is now you've got two links, one of which you would have seen in the last webinar that we gave, and one that's completely new. The WebRTC publish page, this is all parameterized using a page that we've published. So all you need to be able to do is hand this to somebody that you want to be broadcasting a stream. And then the WebRTC playback page is what's new that you can hand to the people that you want to be able to view it. So I'm going to actually open, now that the stream is live, I'm going to open first the publish page. And I'm actually going to choose a different camera than the one that I'm using, because I'm going to be the one publishing. I want to use my, guess I'll be using that one. Oh, there's the one I want. There's the camera I want. It's not as good and not as white balanced, but please accept that. What you see on Zoom looks better because I'm using my good camera for that. And then back here, I'll also open up the WebRTC playback page. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the trick. Let me back up. I think I have time to do this real quickly. I'm gonna go back and stop this stream real quickly. Sorry about that. Stop the live stream. Right now, this would all work. The difference is that we can optimize it a little bit more if what you're trying to get is the lowest latency. So what I'm going to go in and look at the transcoder that was created as a byproduct of walking through this live stream. I'll go look at that live stream, go over to the transcoder setup, choose to edit it. And what we do by default is we create a buffer. And that buffer of 4 seconds is going to add that much latency. So if we want the absolute best latency, we reduce that to 0 seconds. So that's the one change that I need to make in order to make this WebRTC have that low latency. So I'm going to change that. Go back to those live streams that I had before, open that up. This I'll do very quickly. And start that live stream again, and start that flow I had gone through. Sorry about that little detour. I meant to do that, but did not remember. So we'll hide that window. Go in again to that publish page. Go ahead and choose the camera that I want it to use. And then, assuming that this is all okay, it is now started. So we're all ready to go, and I hit publish. So now all I would need to do is distribute that URL. And if any of you really wanted to type it, you could do that right now, but we won't put that in chat, and I'll open up the playback page. And now I just hit play. Now note this has all been parameterized and passed all the information that it needs in order to be able to connect to exactly the right stream. That happened for both the publishing and for the playback. So now I hit play, and it'll connect, and what you'll see is another version of me. So I don't know if you can compare all of these, but effectively, if you're looking on Zoom, you'll see that it's a little bit slower than I anticipated. Maybe that tuning, I need to tune a little bit better, but you've got pretty short latency. I'm not doing audio right now, so just to not confuse matters, but you should notice that you don't have very much latency in here, and it's running at the moment about a second. Maybe my network's not performing well, but you typically have that under a second. And so this is the, we've got both of those pages. Note that for convenience, we've got this version of this URL. That's the one you distribute to users, and you could distribute that up to, roughly 300 times before you start running into the capacity limit. So that's the demo. If anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer those. And I'll leave this stream running, and actually, if anybody has any questions, I'll continue to demo, but I'm going to shut this stream back down.
All right, I'm going to put a few questions to you, but I also wanted to place another poll here. And this is just a basic poll. Everyone, we just want to know some basics, like, are you currently streaming live video? Are you using Wowza? Which, if so, what product, and what industry are you in? Sean is asking, does Streaming Cloud have turn and stun invoked? And what happens to entities that have VPN/firewalls?
So VPNs and firewalls can be a problem for WebRTC. You should be able to generally get through the firewall, but we don't have all of turn and stun and all of the different server options enabled. So there is some variability in terms of that ability to play back through a firewall. We are actually, at the moment, we are, this operates over TCP, which actually helps it go through the firewall better, but that limits us from being able to use it with Firefox. That's something that we're working on adding in terms of being able to have that capability. And along with that will come some of those other options for being able to, that will also help getting through firewalls.
All right.
Go ahead.
Philip is asking, is there any options in CDN to create a VOD stream by uploading an MP4 file?
There are, but you have to have it actually effectively be streamed once, whether there are viewers or not, so that it gets all packetized into HLS. So unfortunately, it's not an accelerated option. This is something I do have in my backlog because I understand this need. But when you upload an MP4, it has to run through the transcoder to become the HLS chunks for the purposes of VOD. And so we run it through the transcoder once, and then from that point forward, it's obviously perfectly legitimate, but you do have to run it through that processing once. And I don't currently have what's effectively an accelerated module because it's trying to play it back in real time rather than it being something that's like, well, we know we're just converting one type of file to another, so do it as quickly as possible. Right now, it will take as long as the duration of that MP4.
All right, great to know. And Sean is asking for live publishing with Fastly, where is the backup RTMP allocated?
I'm not sure I understand the question. If you're, and I don't think this obviously isn't a WebRTC question. If you're publishing, we would be the source if you have backup RTMP that you're pushing, two different sources into us. And at the moment, we don't have redundant RTMP in.
Okay. Kelvin is wondering from your demo, does this player pick up NDI?
I am unfamiliar with. Can you expand on NDI? That's not something that Jamie. Does NDI ring a bell to you?
Yeah, there's no NDI support.
All
Okay.
right, fair enough. And I think somebody was asking on because we are streaming to YouTube, what the charges per month are for cloud.
It depends. There's a variety of packages. Obviously, the more that you use, the less that it costs. You can either purchase it in kind of fixed packages, which start, I think, about $199 a month, or you can do pay-as-you-go, which is less expensive, but the rate per byte is higher. And so it's just a matter of if, we have several plans, and I will just copy into here the specific page that has all the pricing options on it. And so if you've got little events, it can be very inexpensive. If you're doing it pay as you go, the rate per gigabyte is higher. If you've got a number of events you're going to do, I would recommend you move up to a higher package so that you're getting a lower rate per gigabyte delivered.
All right, fair enough. Well, those are all the questions we have at this point relating to Wowza Streaming Cloud. Definitely thank you for that demo. That was great. If we could, however, stop sharing the screen.
Done.
Thank you. And let us move on here to Emma and talk about Wowza Clearcaster. Emma?
Sounds great. Thanks, Justin. Super excited to be here and excited to let you all know what we've been up to these past few months. The biggest thing we've been getting ready in the background is the release of a completely new and revamped line of Clearcaster encoders. As you can see, this new family of encoders includes our Clearcaster Enterprise and the Clearcaster Micro. Both of these devices were developed closely with our hardware partner Ciara, and these devices are available for purchase today directly from Ciara, while the Clearcaster software can be purchased from us here at Wowza. This is a little bit of a new model for us, but it allows us to continue focusing on building great software and gets you the best hardware available, cutting out any middleman. So I'm about to give you a quick rundown of both of these devices right now, but I did want to let you guys know we have sales engineers ready and eager at any time to give you personalized demos of both of these devices. And our sales team is ready to answer any questions about pricing or facilitate an intro to Ciara to help get you started. So if you have any questions after this, don't hesitate to reach out. So let's take a look at our first unit, the Clearcaster Enterprise. This is our most powerful encoder available. The estimate I've heard is that it's about 5x more powerful than our previous Clearcaster Pro. It's a 2U rack mountable unit. Has a redundant dual power supply and is 4K capable. This makes it completely enterprise ready for a data center or machine room and makes it perfect for enterprise broadcasting needs, anyone from professional broadcasters, telcos, sports leagues, and the like. Somewhat surprisingly for how beefy this thing is and how much it can do, it actually runs super quiet, which I think is a nice perk. And similar to our previous Clearcasters, has HDMI and SDI in, and an HDMI display out for an engineering view, and more, but we'll take a closer look at specs on the next slide. The real power of this device, though, is that it can be 100% configured, customized, and controlled remotely by our GraphQL API or the Clearcaster Cloud Orchestration Manager. So as you can see, these are the technical specs. Don't worry about copying any of this down. All this info is readily available on our website. I just wanted to quickly throw it up here so you know what we're working with and highlight the fact that we can stream 4K with this device, encode full AVR ladders, and give you a quick glance at all the different protocols and codecs we support. Awesome. So let's now look at our micro device. This unit is a very similar concept as the Enterprise, but as you can see, in a much smaller form factor. As it's very small, very portable, and very affordable, but still powerful, it makes it a little more ideal for slightly smaller or budget-conscious broadcasting endeavors, such as houses of worship, local news vans, education, etc. As I mentioned, it is slightly smaller and slightly more rugged form factor. It's about 6 inches by 6 inches by 1 inch to give you a rough size idea. Rather than the redundant dual power supply of the Enterprise, this just has a 12 volt power supply, which makes it super easy to throw in your briefcase or backpack and take on the go. As far as limitations, this isn't going to be able to get you a 4K stream. It is SDI in only. But other than that, it's really got all the same great features and functionality as the Enterprise, and is likewise controlled remotely by the API or Clearcaster Cloud Orchestration Manager. So here's another quick look at the technical specs, this time for micro. You will see the few limitations I outlined earlier documented here, but for the most part, you'll see the micro has very similar specs to the Enterprise and can run a lot of the same workflows. And you can always check our website if you need to reference this material again later. Awesome. So now you may be wondering, what is this Clearcaster Cloud Orchestration I keep referring to? Well, for any existing Clearcaster customers, it is the same trial-tested Clearcaster Manager UI you know and love. The cloud orchestration layer is really just a simple web-based interface and API that unleashes all of the power and simplicity of the Clearcaster. Things like remote management, live and archived health monitoring, user roles and permissions, and more. So now that we've got up to speed on the 2 new devices and the Clearcaster Cloud Orchestration, let's take some time to highlight one of the exciting features we've released recently, and that is our direct integration to LinkedIn Live. It really is just as simple and easy to use as all our other social media integrations. Really, I think the hardest part of this is the prereq of getting your LinkedIn account approved and ready to stream via LinkedIn Live. But once that is taken care of, streaming from the Clearcaster is a snap. And I want to quickly highlight just how simple that is. So first, is setting up the LinkedIn Live access token. This is one thing that is slightly unique to LinkedIn as opposed to the other social media integrations, but it is still super simple. In the integration section of the UI, you add a LinkedIn Live access token. That'll prompt you to log into your LinkedIn account, and then that will handle all of the kind of magic behind the scenes that connects your Clearcaster to your LinkedIn account. Once that's set up, you can create your LinkedIn broadcast. The most important thing here is to select our pre-built LinkedIn Live destination that has been optimized specifically for LinkedIn streaming specifications. There's a few other LinkedIn specific details you can fill in at this stage, the exact resolution, your region, which LinkedIn page you want to send the stream to if you happen to have more than one. But once this broadcast is created, all that's left to do is go live. And the great thing about our integration is that once you hit go live on Clearcaster side, there's nothing left to do on the LinkedIn side to get the stream running. That's automatically handled. So once you hit go live, you can right away head over to the LinkedIn page and watch the stream in action. I know I went through this quick, but if you want to see a more in-depth walkthrough of the process, I highly recommend checking out our new broadcast to LinkedIn Live using Wowza Clearcaster tutorial video on YouTube that our very own host Justin graciously put together. This is also fully documented on the product docs on our website. And on that note, that's all I have for you. And let's see what questions we got, Justin.
All right. Thank you, Emma. Before I pop the questions in, I am going to pull up another poll here, if you don't mind. Our poll is asking you, how many encoders does your organization manage? I think that's directly related to one of the questions here that Tobias is asking right now, which is, what is the benefit of using a micro over just streaming straight out of a TriCaster?
Yeah, the micro and Clearcaster in general has a lot of benefits. I'm not super familiar with what a TriCaster can do, but the remote management capabilities of the micro makes it super easy to control a fleet of encoders, to send it to multiple destinations, even add graphics or slates on the stream. So if you have any more questions, please follow up or like I said, get a sales demo and we can really show you all of the features we can unleash with the micro.
All right. Well, I have to say we don't have a lot of questions coming in. I'm sure, quite honestly, having just made the video that you were discussing, I know that there's a lot of information on functionality that maybe people don't consider between a standard encoder to what we have created. And certainly the video you're talking about focuses on LinkedIn Live, but we will have another video shortly by the end of the day today that kind of breaks through not just all of the great functionality available as part of Clearcaster, but as well its seamless integration and usefulness when using Wowza Streaming Cloud, especially through that. Emma, I'm sure you could speak more about the integration than I could. I'm less technical on that that way, but I love it all, including I think the graphics functionality is very nice, and one thing to consider is that those the graphics options can be modified while you're live. So I tried to put that in the video, as I mentioned to you. Hopefully people would like it. And I'm just going to end this poll right now, but for people who are curious, I'll share the results right here. So most people have 1 to 10 encoders, and I'm wondering if 1 to 10 means 1. Next time I will make a better poll for this, absolutely. And now to finish off here, we're going to be talking about, sunsetting. So I'm not sure who's speaking on this.
I will start. Yes, ending on a happy note with the sunset. I think I saw a question in the Q&A too about this.
You did. Someone was asking if are we planning to increase the period for sunsetting of older products?
So let me start with all this. I'll touch on that in a relative sense. So at the beginning of the year, we decided to sunset Wowza Player, the Wowza Go Coder SDK, and the this is all tied also to the ultra low latency service in Wowza Streaming Cloud. So we're just trying to reiterate here that this is still a thing. We did make an announcement last quarter that we are extending that date. So I really want to make sure that people are clear who are using these tools today, that the date is not January 5 of 2021. It is end of August 2021, August 31st or thereabouts. So we have extended this to be able to give people effective time to move to other technologies, and some of that work or some of that ability to move is work on our side to be able to accommodate that. So more time. We'd still love to work with you on moving away from these tools as quick as you can. I wouldn't wait to the very end. And for those that can move, and for those that can't move, primarily the ultra low latency customers, yeah, we have good things coming that will still in a timely fashion help you move from those. From that to something new. So this is about Wowza Player here specifically. We have been and continue to work on building relationships with various entities in a referral basis approach. So commercially, we've been working very closely with TheoPlayer, which is a market leading commercial player in the industry. And they have SDKs across platforms, including HTML5 in the browser, but also other devices, set-top boxes, that kind of stuff too. So great choice. If you do want an open source choice, though, we've also been working with Video.js and HLS.js in particular, and would recommend those as well. And again, the impact here really to existing customers is that you've, on a player sense, you've got embed codes on pages, right? You've got to rework those embed codes with new player embed codes to make existing content work. Going forward for new content at some point, there'll be transitions for tools that we haven't, for example, a Wowza player instance or access in Wowza Streaming Cloud. We will do our best to make that 100% under the hood change so that you don't have to make any changes. If you do deploy embed codes on your own, though, you will have to make some changes, unfortunately. And the GoCode SDK is a similar but different approach. Again, referral option is where it's similar. These are for building mobile apps to do broadcast and playback, primarily broadcast. Again, professional services can get engaged on both Wowza Player and Wowza GoCoder if you have questions or want actual help in taking a new SDK and building rebuilding your apps for broadcast. So you have a couple of choices. If you're capable, you can certainly do this yourself. But we are recommending the Lyrics SDK from SoftVellum. It's a great choice to good relationship with those guys, and very comparable technology to what the GoCard SDK does, and very compatible and comparable with, or really compatible with our current portfolio as well. So Wowza Streaming Engine and Streaming Cloud work well with Lyrics SDK.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I don't see any questions relating to it. So I'm just going to answer the last question, which was more directed towards Emma, which is about how well does Clearcaster work with Wowza Streaming Engine. And just for the record, I didn't say anything because I'm working on the video for Cloud. Then I will work on the video for Engine. And as to all of that, also, Emma was talking about how small the micro is, and I got one right here on my desk for those who want to see it. So it's about the length of that right there. That's it. Go on, Emma. Sorry.
No, thanks, Justin. It's always good to have a visual demonstration. As far as integration with Streaming Engine, yes, Clearcaster does very much integrate with Streaming Engine. We have pre-built destinations and templates you can use. As Justin hinted to, he's already working on a video just to demonstrate how easy it is. So keep an eye out for that.
Thank you. I really want to show it, though, with how to do SRT to WebRTC. So I might have to talk to you about that.
Yeah, sounds good.
So Kurt is asking, is there a player that supports low latency HLS besides TheoPlayer, and the TheoPlayer does not work with audio only streams? I'm not sure if the concern that Kirk has is that it doesn't work with audio only, or whether he just wants another option.
So HLS.js, which it looks like Alex is talking about JW. So JW, I don't believe has an official release of LHLS just yet, but it's built on HLS.js, and HLS.js, if you go to their product sites, has some early access versions to that support LHLS, low latency HLS, to test with. So it's kind of early days. We've been talking to all the players in the industry. Part of the challenge of the LHLS is adoption. It requires players and to some level distribution entities like CDNs to support the technology changes in the spec, HLS spec. So we've been working closely with Fastly and TheoPlayer. Theo has a great relationship. Well, a lot of these folks that have been doing this stuff early have great relationships with Apple. Akamai has a version of support now with it too, as a CDN. So player, you can try HLS.js, but not a lot of folks are jumping on this bandwagon just yet. So it's kind of a wait and see. To your audio only point, Theo does support audio only. So if you're having trouble there, I would reach out to Theo and talk to them. I know they do this.
All right. Takes me a second to find my unmute button, guys. Nicholas is asking, I remember Wowza had a low latency private implementation with its player, which I think he's referring to ULL. What happens now with it as the player is going to be deprecated?
I can take this, Jamie.
Okay.
So, so the dates for ULL is something that for customers that currently have it, it has not been shut down for them, but the dates for deprecation are aligned to the dates of the player. So end of August is also when that ultra low latency network that we have is also being shut down. So for current customers that's affected, that will affect them, and part of that is based upon the ability of other low latency technologies, both WebRTC and low latency HLS. We anticipate that that's when everything is going to align and when we'll be able to have both the player go away and the underlying network for it. Obviously, there's a migration, but for those of you who aren't using ULL currently, that's not something that's available for new sale. It's just for legacy customers.
All right. Thank you, Robert. And Sean is asking, which I suppose will go to you as well, Robert. Will Wowza Streaming Cloud have low latency HLS to Akamai direct via stream targets?
Low latency HLS initially will, it is evolving because of our plans for that to align. We're expecting that work to continue into the summer. At the moment, the likely answer is that the first implementation will be tied to Fastly in terms of the mechanism that we use for delivery. It is yet to be decided in terms of whether we're going to allow it to be just a generic stream target. Note that as Jamie alluded to, there's a fair amount of configuration that potentially has to happen on the CDN. So if you've got to bring your own CDN kind of environment, the latency HLS isn't the same animal that HLS is, where effectively you're just putting this HTTP, this file, in this case the HLS chunks, out there for fetching via HTTP. There's some configuration that needs to happen in order to make that possible to work. So it's not as simple. And so we're going to solve the problem first, and then based on, if customers have a desire to do it themselves, there's going to be a heavier lift. It won't be impossible, but it's not something that we have planned initially.
Awesome. Thank you. And Alex is asking, and this is for Emma, is there a rack mount for the, I believe he's talking about the micros. I think he'd like to have 2 micros rack mounted.
That is a good question. I haven't seen anything for rack mounting 2 of the micros. I might need to talk to our hardware partner about that, but as far as I'm aware, no, we do not have a rack mounting option for that currently.
That being said, I'm sure you could get a rack mount shelf to place right there and put 2 micros in place.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Justin. Thanks.
Sean is asking one further. Does low latency HLS support adaptive bitrate or multi-bit rate via Wowza streaming? Sorry, WCS.
Probably Wowza Streaming Cloud. So
Okay.
we don't currently have low latency HLS support in cloud. So just to make that very clear, it's an engine feature at the moment. There's more integration down that path of doing stuff with the CDNs and the spec has yet to firm up. So we don't have that available in cloud. But one of the benefits of low latency HLS is adaptive bitrate, and that will be part of the ability to stream low latency streams using low latency HLS, including that adaptive bitrate. And it's available currently in Engine.
Thank you. And just to comment back to Mike, who is not happy with our microphones. I'm sorry, Mike. As you can see, I have a microphone right here. So does Robert. If you want to recommend some better microphones, feel free to do so. You can just email me at webinars@wowza.com. I'm always curious what microphones people are recommending in terms of headset mics. Keep in mind that these are connected into a computer. So, And Laura has some questions relating, or some problems, I guess, relating to Theo Player. I don't know if this is something we can even discuss, or something that needs to go to support to get some help with. So I'm gonna pass that one, hopefully to support, who can help them out figuring out what the problems are with Theo Player. Janie's asking, where in EU you have cloud Wowza services because of LL?
So
Um,
there's a couple answers to those. I'll cover the very broad brush, and then then if somebody has questions, they can follow up. You know, obviously, the further that you move traffic, any traffic, the longer it's going to take. So even if you're not doing anything that's a low latency technology, the closer both you are to your transcoder and the transcoder and the viewer is, the better. So yes, we have a network throughout Europe. We recommend that you push into, and there's Belgium and Germany, and I can bring up the list here in a moment of all the different places where we have cloud sites where you can push into. The CDNs are global, and they've got POPs all over the place. So again, if you're, depending, it's that last mile that kills you, but they are well populated throughout Europe. And so I would not expect that latency is a problem for distribution. And that's going to be the same case whether that's regular HLS or low latency HLS. I will say, just based on the WebRTC demo that I gave earlier, because that's coming direct off transcoder, it becomes more important, because that where you're pushing your stream into and where the viewer is pulling the stream out of are the same place. So the geography matters more than it does in other situations, because you don't have the benefit of the CDN giving you that geographical coverage.
and that being said, Robert, Sean's asking in relation to China, or specifically low latency HLS or VOD playback within China.
It's a question of whether, that we are not a vendor that has, that has applied for and gotten the Chinese government's, guaranteed like firewall.
We don't have an ICP license today.
Right. We don't have that. We don't have the license that you, in order to be able to do that. Now, that said, there are customers who are streaming from inside China that are going to Hong Kong, for instance, in order to pull their content where there are POPs, but we don't have POPs and we don't have presence inside China. And so the only question is, will a specific request make it through the firewall? In general, our conversations with the CDN vendors are that the answer is yes, because obviously it's a CDN vendor that they're pulling content through, whether that's HLS or low latency HLS. But it's not something where we have a presence where we can guarantee that the Chinese government is going to allow that traffic to flow.
Sean's also asking then, can we peer with Alibaba?
At the moment, we don't have a peering relationship with a CDN vendor in China either. We know of those. That's not something that we currently have.
And once again, the mute button's hiding from me. I apologize for that, Robert. Thank you. Max Armstrong is asking, and I think this is a question for Jamie, with the August sunsetting of Wowza Player in Wowza Cloud, does that mean there'll be no more simple player host page in cloud anymore?
No, we are definitely going to provide a hosted page still. So there will continue to be a hosted page. We will change what player is behind that, but there will continue to be a hosted page. Absolutely, that is actually used more than I had anticipated when I started working on cloud. But yes, that page will persist.
And two parts here, just for one person is asking about some details on HLS. I'm not sure what they're asking for in regards to training on HLS. Are you talking about low latency HLS? If you could go into more detail on your question, I definitely appreciate it. Laura is asking when or if it will be possible to use CloudFront CDN for WebRTC streaming via Wowza Streaming Engine.
Guess I will take that. So we don't have any timing for that. I'm not even aware that CloudFront can do WebRTC. So, my mistake if that's the case. But they're an HTTP-based CDN. So delivering WebRTC through a CDN like that, you have to pick a more proprietary approach, like Agora is a WebRTC specific CDN. And there are some others in the industry. So maybe I'm misunderstanding the question too, but based on what I see, that's what I would say.
All right, thank you, Jamie. And yeah, definitely that could be on the CDN side. We got time for about one more question here, so I'm going to go back to Sean. Sean is asking, on Wowza Cloud, will you support the ingest of SRT files for VOD and then playback to the player provided by Wowza?
So the method that we're using for VOD is converting everything to HLS, and we currently don't support an SRT file as a source for any type of streaming. So, I mean, the beauty of the design is that whatever we can pull in, we can turn into VOD, whether that's coming in live or that's coming as a file. An SRT file is currently not a supported format. What we would do with that SRT file would be converting that into, we can bring, let me back up and say, we can bring SRT in, but it's not a file format that we support. And then we would convert it to HLS, and then the VOD asset would be available as HLS. And then, of course, that HLS is something that you could support in that or in the Wowza player or a variety of others. But it's not SRT. It wouldn't be SRT through the entire pipeline. It would be converted to HLS because the mechanism we're utilizing to store that VOD asset.
All right, thank you, Robert. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this webinar. If you do have questions, please do contact our sales department. Our sales department is a great point of contact to begin if you're looking to use or check out any of our services. That is sales@wowza.com, or call us toll free at 888-778-7997. And thanks you once again. I hope everyone has a great holiday season, and